My name is Tracy Heilers. I'm founder and executive director of Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully. And we're co-hosting this event with SEL Hub 4. So thank you to Carrie Hogue for helping put this together for us. We have Kathy Flaminio here from MoveMindfully, and she is a regular presenter with COSM because she's so phenomenal, as you will find out. A very short bio of hers is that she has a master's degree in social work and holds more than 20 years of experience in regular and special education. She's an adjunct facility at St. Mary's University, founder of MoveMindfully, and that's just a little bit about her. And she can hopefully, at the end of her presentation, I see you have a new book. I'd love to just know a little bit about that at the end.
Yeah.
And if you have any trainings coming up that we can learn further from you, we'd love to hear that at the end too. And then I will also share at the very end, anybody who's new to COSM with our membership to answer any questions and just give you a quick learn how to get on our member site and where everything is so that you feel confident there. But thank you, Kathy. I'll pass it over to you.
Yes. Yes. So thank you all for showing up, man. I think we all get an award for like just getting out of bed. I have a little sticker on a little post-it. I was in this meeting the other day and this woman said, give me the gift of lower expectations. So I love that because I feel like right now there's still continues. And those of us that are working in schools, I would love if you write in the box again, like if you're in schools or what your position is, so I can learn kind of the grade levels. I know, Sandra, you're with early ed, but it would be great to hear what you're doing because I think right now, I think we're not over COVID and the pandemic. We're really starting to see like the impact of trauma. So like Tracy said, I worked in Minneapolis public schools for 20 years as a social worker, and I was also in the fitness and wellness industry. And one day I showed up to work and I'm just cracking up because everything is relative, but I thought we were very stressed out then. I just felt like people were having a hard time managing. And I just felt like the work that we're doing with youth wasn't quite hitting the mark. Would anybody feel like that? Like you try some things and then they kind of worked and then they don't work anymore. And then we're just feeling exhausted. And so one day I was in the fitness and wellness industry. So one day I literally had this epiphany that I was educating and supporting teachers and doing my own social work from the chin up, right? And we know that trauma resides in our nervous system. I do a lot of quotes because I feel like that is so succinct to understand. So if trauma is in our nervous system, we can't just be doing the chin up education. We got to work with the mind and body. And you all know this personally right now. So I would love for you to turn on your cameras and just show me where your body is right now. Because it's the end of the day. Some of you are on the East Coast too. I think we have people from the East Coast. So show me right now, if we can have cameras on, where's your body taking the score? So there's Bessel van der Kolk is very well-known psychiatrist in the field of trauma. And he wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score. And we all know this. So who has tight jaw? Anybody have a tight jaw? Yep. And I'm going to call everybody Carrie because some of you are still Carrie. Who's got headaches? Like you're just like, wow. Like I've never had migraines and now I'm having this idea of what that means. Whose shoulders and neck are wrecked? Like you're driving home. Do you have people at home and you're kind of going home or pets and you're like, I have zero for you, nothing. You're like, yep, I picked this job in education. I chose this. All right. What about your heart? I know I'm in active grieving. I'll just be very vulnerable right now. I had a big crisis just recently. So but on top of grieving, is anybody active grieving or just feeling like the grief is piled? All right. What about your digestive system? And you're like, oh my gosh, I feel wrecked today. She's like naming it all. Okay. But yes, our digestive tract is wrecked. There's a lot of things going on. But what this is telling you is that we can't leave the body out in education. So one day I literally showed up and I told the kids, yep, we're done talking. And the kids are like, what? I was in a K-8 school at that point. And I said, we're going to try some practices. They were actually like, cool. You know, we went into the gym and we actually did some breathing, movement, and rest. And what we saw, what we call mindfulness, paying attention in the present moment, doing things in the present moment as is we saw changes we hadn't seen in 10 years. And it wasn't just in my office. How many one-on-one with students, it goes all right, or with families, right? And then all of a sudden the student walks out in the hallway. You're like, wait a second, that did not stick. All right. So it was sticking. So a little first grader, put your fingers together, or kindergartner actually. So put your fingers together. Many of you know this breathing. They didn't have the breathing ball with them, right? They had their fingers, and they told their mom, breathe through your belly. It's a diaphragmatic breath. Okay, let's breathe. Or a fourth grader whose father just lost his job. Dad, put your hands together. What are you talking about, Dad? Dad, just put your hands together. We learned this at school today. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. And your dad's like, what are we doing? Just, Dad, do it again. Breathe in. And this is for you right now. And out. Let's just open up your shoulders. Breathe in. Out. And then the little fourth grader leans into his dad's eyes and said, Dad, it's going to be okay. Or the eighth grader whose life was completely, I would say it was like living 80 years, but I'm only in eighth grade. I've been exposed to so much. And she looks at me after we do, many of you seen the glitter ball, right? We did some breathe, move, rest, and all the glitter started to settle. And she saw this visual in the beginning. And she just looked at me and said, Miss Kathy, what is this? I'm like, what is what? What is this place inside me that feels so calm? And then tears roll down her face. But my life's a mess. And those of us in mindfulness and education got to say, and we get to say, it's not messy down there. And you just found an activity that allowed you to notice the glitter, but not get involved. Does that make sense? And so then the next week, what did this student do? Miss Kathy, what? Where is this student doing her breathing exercises? Someone can unmute because we're in a small, or write it in the box. Where is she doing it? Where is she doing her exercises? She's like, oh my gosh, is it okay that I do my breathing where? In the bathroom. I'm like, yes, that's brilliant. Of course you're going to do the breathing in your bathroom. That might be the one place, unless you're a mom, where it's just like, can I just go into the bathroom alone? Why is everybody following me? All right. But she was doing the breathing in the bathroom. And I got curious about this the other day when I was in an elementary school, and kids are in the bathroom singing and wiggling their legs. It's probably the one place where they can feel safe and just have no one bother them. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, how do we find this place that this eighth grader talked about, or this fourth grader or kindergarten? And how do we do it? It's by unwinding our nervous system. So today, what we're going to be doing is oops, I got something else on the screen here. In the box, hopefully, is it in the box can you see in the chat box, the little handout I did? Okay. And that just says breathe, move, rest, because I really feel like that's our signature practice. We got to keep this so simple right now. It's got to be so simple so we can keep it consistent. So the title of this presentation is called Connecting Mind and Body and Heart with MoveMindfully. And I really wanted to change this after I sent this to you, Tracy, and just calling it Befriending Our Nervous System. Because our nervous system is so brilliant and it's trying to keep us safe, right? But everything feels like this total crisis. So we're not getting a break in our body. But what happens when we befriend it? So the first way we do this, and I'm sure many of you are in mindfulness and education, that's why you're showing up here today. So I don't want to be here saying everything, because I think there's a lot of wisdom in the room, but I've already talked way longer than I wanted to in the beginning. because I'm not sure we're all here. I see your faces, but I'm not sure. Our mind, put your hand on your head. Our mind is right here with our body. And when our mind and body are together, our heart is happy. So we're going to start with the Move Mindfully beginning, and I'm going to show you the visuals. These are our card deck. So we're going to do a little twist. We're going to do a little bit of work. We're not using the chime because we're online, and we're going to take a little brain break. So right now, take a piece of paper and you're just going to write down right now, physically, emotionally, mentally. Physically, emotionally, mentally. And then you're going to write down, before we even do any mindfulness right now, we're just going to write down physically, how am I right now? For me, it's 3:42 in the afternoon, and I'm super glad I took a little nap today. But how are you feeling? Is your neck, where are you feeling it? Just scan head to toe. And just write down, how am I feeling physically? And then emotionally, just what emotions are showing up right now on the surface? These are things that move. What emotionally is showing up? And then mentally, what are the thoughts right now? Where's my headspace? Is it clear, busy, relaxed? And then I'm going to have you take your attention down to your toes and squeeze your toes. And then let your toes rest. And if you like this quote, write it. I wish I knew who said this. Be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. Okay. And then let's intervene. So draw your chin down. We're going to start with just your neck. A lot of people are feeling tension in your neck, and just release any tension in your neck. Maybe go side to side. Sometimes I just find that area and there it is. I might even name it. That's so-and-so today. I was feeling really worried about this student today, or whatever it is. What is that not? And then just breathe into it. And notice that your gaze is starting to move into your heart. That's where the seat of wisdom is, right here. And then slowly come up. And we're going to turn our eyes away from the camera. So you're going to stretch your psoas muscle. You're going to stretch your back. And you're going to orient your body into this space. And just look for something you appreciate in your space, not what needs to be put away or cleaned up. What do you appreciate? And just a soft smile and acknowledgement of that. And then slowly come back to center and pause. And go ahead and put your hands like this, because I want you to see what you're doing physically. So squeeze like this. So this is your digestive system that gets wrecked when we get nervous or scared. It just slows down. So as we turn again on this side, I'm going to have you notice in the front of the body, you're going to feel this compression in your digestive system. When we move out, this fresh oxygenated blood, it's like, this is why this movement is very strategic. So yes, we're stretching our back and our spine all the way up to the neck, but we're also compressing into the digestive system. And just again, notice something you appreciate. And then slowly come back to center. And then you're just going to notice how your body feels as you listen to noise in the space. So just notice what you're hearing. And then take your hands, either like brush against your finger or touch your sweater, just touch something so you can just feel something in your space. So just you're getting your senses right here. And then you're going to take your hands, and some of us run anxious. What I like to do is I like to not have so many fidgets. I like to have my body be the fidget. So if I like squeezy toys, I want to see what it's like to squeeze my hands or to rub my wrist rather than having a squishy toy, because I might not have it when I really need it. So I'm going to have you rub or squeeze or create heat in the hands. So see what's right for you. All right, now we're all going to get our hands warm and we're going to take them away from the camera. Now, if this doesn't feel safe for you, you're going to go like this so you can see me. Otherwise, you're going to cup your frontal cortex. And you're going to take your eyes away from the workshop and you're going to really check in as we just slow down our breathing. And then slowly come up and we're going to hold the frontal cortex. This is the brain break card in the back of the head. So we're holding the protective brain and the front of the brain. And we're just going to take 3 more breaths. And then shake it out. And then we're going to notice. So I'm going to have you, this is exactly what we do with students. Thumbs up if one of those activities felt pretty good to you. Sideways, yeah, it was okay, didn't notice much, or thumbs down. That wasn't my favorite. If it's a thumbs up, you're going to write down, especially for you at home. I liked holding my head. I liked rubbing my hands and putting my eyes here. So write it down because we're going to need it as a Post-it note somewhere, because even if you like it, we're going to forget about it during the day. And you're going to put it on your computer or whatever, your car, like. And then you're going to just take a moment to set an intention on how you want to show up today. Our words are very powerful. So do you want to show up present, relaxed, strong, brave, at ease? How do you want to show up today? And I'm going to have you just write that down in the box so we can actually hold each other or hold each other's attention. So my intention is to be present and at ease. I like to have a few words. How do you want to show up today? Brave, relaxed and present, relaxed, relaxed, present. Show up grounded. And I guarantee there is going to be something, maybe even in the next 5 minutes, where you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to send that email. I can't believe what just happened today at school. Why did I say that? I must have just totally flipped my lid. I'm going to have to repair that. So that's another piece of paper that if you want to during this workshop, you write it down. But here's the gift of that is when we stray away of how we want to be. Rena wants to be open-minded, all in, Saria in my body. You stray away, we know this, right? And you come back, and that's how we create that neural pathway. So it's always a yes. It's like, oh my gosh, I just went all over the place. Great. And now I'm choosing. Okay, so when we think about trauma, trauma is a severe lack of choice. So trauma is, there's a stimulus, right? And then there's a response. And here's where mindfulness comes in. I get to choose, it's not that easy, how I want to respond. And as Viktor Frankl has said in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, right? He's the Holocaust survivor that's written the book, Man's Search for Meaning. The freedom is in the space in between, my ability to choose how I want to respond. So today we're going to be working with some of these new cards that we created. They're called your inner resources. And we're going to be doing some work with the body. So inner resources, we just developed this last year with the author, Jackie Levine. And they are parts of ourselves that really help us navigate challenges and create some sense of ease and in our well-being. It helps. So how we think of our life and speak of our life is our life. So all of these resources are available, but we have to kind of stop and say, oh my gosh, what's going on with me physically, emotionally, and mentally? So I'm going to have you sit back for a moment and not look at the screen. Whatever you want to do, you could put your head down, and I'm going to read some of these cards. So they're inner resources A to Z. And I'm going to have you imagine just like you're surrounded by all of these inner resources, like they're literally inside of you, ready to be of service to you. Acceptance. balance, courage, gratitude, hope, joy, kindness, self, understanding. So when we acknowledge where we're at, we're going to start today with this first card. It's acceptance. Whoa, and this one's a hard one. And so at the front of the card of our cards, we have these, I keep them in a little bowl and I just draw in the morning. What can serve me today? What can help me? What inner resource do I need to call upon? So what is happening in here is many of us have been in these traffic jams, and it is how it is. Like, no matter how much you wish you're not in the traffic jam, you are in it. So you have a choice. And so acceptance wants us to remember that this is how it is sometimes. So I want you to take a moment right now to look down where you wrote physically, emotionally, and mentally, and just honor where you are right now. So honoring if you're stressed right now or tired. This is how it is sometimes. This is how it is sometimes. On the back of the card is some guidance from the inner resource. So acceptance never judges. I would love if this rings true to you, I can be here now just as I am. I can be here focused, messy, distracted. Who I am is enough. And that's a key message we want to give to kids. Who you are is enough. You are enough. There's nothing to do or accomplish. You are enough. I can be in this moment just as it is. It can be messy and uncomfortable, and I can be in this moment. And then there's a little message for the day, a little blessing or a little wish. May you be at peace with what is, and may you let it be. And that's what mindfulness is, right? It's super uncomfortable. People say, oh, do I just, I just notice how I'm feeling? Like, it takes a lot of bravery to say, this is how it is sometimes. So we're in an age right now, in the last 2 years especially, where there's a lot going on. And mindfulness is so critical. Who has a mindfulness practice? Mindfulness means I'm paying attention just in any moment, right? Meditation is a sitting practice. Right now, I'm talking about mindfulness practice, lots of different ways to do mindfulness, right? Walking, eating, singing, humming, sitting. So we're in a place right now where we can start to change the things we don't accept. I'm going to say that again. We're in a place where we can start to change the things we don't accept with kindness and mindfulness. So this is how it is. We're in a place so there's a lot of discontent in the world, right? We're in almost a war, and we're sitting right here in a workshop. And so I can take small steps. And how do I do that? With how I'm showing up right now. When I learn how to find regulation in my system, this is a quote for you to write down. My nervous system as the adult is going to be the intervention for you. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to look around on what's happening in the school day with students, and I'm going to be more curious about what their body's doing to try to keep them safe. And then I'm going to use my body and my nervous system to be that regulation piece. Does that make sense? So I love to pull a few cards in the morning. So I usually put acceptance, and then I have to bring in the card balance. So I'm going to have you hold up right now what you wrote down physically, emotionally, mentally. Okay. And then I'm going to have you write down your intention. So just hold your intention. And actually, can we have someone model this? Can someone say one of the ways they showed up right now, physically, emotionally, mentally? Tracy, do you want to be brave?
Yeah, sure. Physically, I showed up, my adrenals aching and a deep tiredness, jaw tight. Emotionally, feeling a little bit sad for no particular reason, and mentally feeling unmotivated today.
Yeah, so we're going to hold that. This is how it is sometimes. And what's your intention? How do you want to show up today for this workshop?
Of feeling grounded in my body.
Okay, so everybody hold your two things and just put them on top like this. You're just going to hold and just take a few breaths. I can hold two opposing things at the same time. And then shake it out. And when I have a card that helps me, or I write that down, I can hold two opposing things, because we know that, like what I'm realizing right now, there's a word and I can't remember what language it is, that grief and praise are the same word. Grief and praise. So I can be in active grief and still be in this place of praise and gratitude and remembrance. Like I can hold those both. That's super powerful. So inner resource balance wants me to know that multiple perspectives and opposing views invite healthy tension, and balance meets chaos with calm. May you welcome multiple perspectives and opposing views and opposing situations, and may you feel the energy and ease that balance can bring. And right now we know that we have made it through 100% of our hardest days. Whoever said that, I think it was Glennon Doyle. But what that means is that when we don't think we're going to make it, we usually do most of the time. So are you ready to get into your own body? Let's all take a drink of tea or water and let this be a mindfulness experience. Let's stay hydrated. So go ahead. This is my moment where I'm like, oh yes. Does anybody drink coffee or tea in the morning? And is that like a religious experience where you're like, yes, yes. And why do we want to memorize that? We want to memorize, I love my tea and I love my dog. Because when the day starts to go, I'm building that buffer. Okay, so let's start to unwind your body right now so we can release some of this. So what we're going to do is befriend our nervous system. We're going to understand that we as human beings have been built for safety at all costs. So we've got this brain that basically is like, we're going to keep you alive, and I have to always be on alert to know if you're going to be safe or not. Okay, and we're doing this kind of as a society. This is where you see kind of this individualism versus what we need right now is collectivism, right? We need this part of our brain to unite with this part of our brain to be like, we all need each other and we all need to see each other. Otherwise, we are really, what we do to one another is we are doing to ourselves and to the earth. So how does this play out? This plays out in your nervous system. So when I went on my sabbatical, I started to realize that the breathing, movement, and rest exercises and practices that I were doing was literally moving kids and myself from the fight, flight, freeze to the rest, digest, or we say stay and play. And when we can move into this system, we can really allow ourselves to digest what is going on. So I'm going to say that again. When we take a moment to befriend this nervous system, we can start to digest life rather than it digesting us. Who feels like you've just been chewed up and spit out? And it's just, like today, I just got a text from a principal that I was supposed to be working with. And he said, we had a medical emergency. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? A third grader had put his finger in the cart for the computers. And it was like completely stuck. You know, it's like you can't even make it on top of like bigger emergencies, but it's like, are you kidding me? So there's just so much going on. So here's what happens. Put your hand at the back of the brain. The back of the brain cannot handle everything that's going on, is trying to keep you safe. So the first place it goes to, it's actually at the bottom of the hip flexor, but it tenses your jaw. Then your eyes narrow in. Then your shoulders move up. Let's do it. And palms downward. And then if we were in complete fight flight, we'd be like this. And it's not like you're walking around every day like, oh my gosh, but it feels like really. Okay, so what we're going to do right now for your own body is just unwind this system. And we're going to start with that jaw. Okay. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to do lion's breath. We're going to warm our hands again and cup them over our eyes. We're going to open up the front of the body. We're going to do a little psoas release. And we're going to see if we feel different. That's the whole point. I'm feeling this way. I stop and notice. I do one of these exercises. And then if I like it, I'm going to write it down. So everybody, I would love your cameras on for this one. And those of you that are watching it at a different time, you got to do this. All right. So hands on the legs. Some of you know this breath. We're going to take a nice deep breath in. And you're just going to go like this. And I want you to get wild. Like this has been a year. Ready? Or cover your mouth. You're like, I got to turn my camera off to the side. Okay, but why do I want your tongue to stick out? So you can yawn, but when the tongue comes out, it clicks on your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is your largest cranial nerve. It comes down, it traces around the chin. This is important because when you see me doing something like this, I'm toning the vagus nerve and it touches every organ, right? So if I unhinge my jaw, it allows that nerve to, we call it, like toning the vagus nerve, okay? The vasovagal response, that's when you pass out. We don't want that, but we want somewhere in between. Okay, so now our jaw. So I'm going to have you just pretend you closed your office door or your car, and let's do that. Ready? I'm just going to turn away. I'm closing my office door. And I come home. Hi, honey. No, it's good. No, I don't actually want to talk about the day. Maybe later, but I just released my jaw. So I don't want it to get tight again as I talk about my day. Okay, so that is, and it's so fun. I see some of you are working with younger kids, like doing like, Sandra, do you do this? I mean, we do lion's breath. They love it. You have a lion and you do that, but know that there's science behind what that's doing. The next thing is to reduce the visual stimulation. So when we are stressed, and we see this a lot with our youth and our adults, is we do what's called hypervigilance, right? We do eye scanning. So I can walk in a room, I can walk in any room, and I will tell you, I know exactly how to get out. I've always been that way. If I go to a restaurant, I have to sit this way. I can't have someone behind me. That just is not safe for my body. Does anybody feel like that? So that's your body trying to keep you safe. So we all have different ways of doing that. But it's exhausting. Like the eyes can't be taking in all that information. So I'm going to have you do this again now, knowing that you're actually relaxing this muscle. So you can do this, or you can literally take your head like we do in school, head on desk, 1 potato 2, or smashed potato. And we're going to just take 3 breaths. So I'm going to warm my hands, and then I might take my eyes away from the screen, and let's take a few breaths here. Soft eyes. And then slowly release up. So I might just say math is over. We're going to rub our hands together. Take your hands here. If this, notice my language. If this doesn't feel safe and you want to see, you can still cup your head here. We're just going to give ourselves a little break. And then bing, I ring the chime. We sit up and we start writer's workshop. And you just did a tiny thing that has like 1,000 different results. You took eyes away, you took visual stimulation, you cupped the frontal cortex, so you're saying blood flow to the frontal cortex, and you gave kids a break. And especially middle and high school students, they don't get a break. They can't wear hoodies, which I wish they could in some ways, because it's like, there's like so much going on. How do I get away? We have students that are like falling asleep at their desks or like all doing this. So we want to meet the body where it's at. All right, so let's move into your shoulders. All right, so let's back bend in our chair. So see what it feels like to just back bend, and maybe you stick out your tongue. And then take your spine and move it forward. So we're going to do what's called a forward bend and a back bend. So take your eyes away from the camera, meeting if you're tired right now or maybe feeling low energy or sad, just meet that. This is how it is sometimes. And then come up. And maybe when we come up like this, say, wait, I wake up my body. Release your wrists and fingers. And then you're like, oh, but I'm really tired. And then you come right back. And then we'll just do this one more time. This is one of our posters, use when tired. And then slowly come center and just shake it out. All right, but that's kind of hard to, you got the front of the body, but it's hard to really get right between the shoulder blades. So we're going to do what's called a chair dog. So you can stand up or you can stretch here, but it's not as beneficial, I don't think. is coming out of your chair right now. And you could do it at the kitchen table. You can sit. Let me just, I want to say that again. You can get this stretch. It's just hard to melt between the shoulder blades. So if you're seated, just go ahead and try that. If you're standing, you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to make myself an upside down L. So I'm going to stretch here. If I've had a day that I'm like, oh, it's really bugging me, I'm going to push against the wall instead. I'm just going to like get out that energy and press against the wall and just try to melt between your shoulder blades. And come up with some vocabulary right now. Maybe like I let it go. Or come back to your intention. And then we'll shake that out. All right, and then we're going to just notice thumbs up if you like that one, sideways or down, okay? And so in a moment, you could, when in the move part of your section, you can just write stretch chair dog or like that. So now we're going to stretch the hip flexor. So if you're sitting, you could cross your leg like this or sit like this. So that's going to get the outer part of the leg. We're going to get this part of the leg, and it's like literally like a lunge at the gym. But this is the muscle that pulls you to go like this. So we want to get this released. All right. And you can do this seated in a chair. It's just a different move and it's great. So we're going to stay right here and just see how this feels. Or you can bring your arms up. Some of you are tired. You can lift up and do a little back bend. We're getting that muscle to release for us. And then we're going to come back and stretch here. And see what this vocabulary feels like. I'm willing to see this differently. I'm willing to see this differently. And then slowly come up and we'll switch legs. So if you're seated, go to the other leg. Otherwise, you'll take this leg back. So I can look at the camera, and that doesn't give me an emotional charge as if I look up and say to myself, I can do this. So try gazing up if you're in the standing, soft smile on the face, and put vocabulary in, like I can do this, or we can do this, we can do this. And watch what happens when our body form and our language starts to shift. We can do this. And then we slowly come back. So we're not just doing moves with Move Mindfully. We're putting in and layering in some social emotional language. We're equating it to this might help when we feel high energy or low energy. And then slowly come up and then take as long as we want to. If you're seated in a chair, maybe just you can go into the back bend. But otherwise for you right now, take your hands and we're gonna do a little chest expansion here. Just open up here, release your neck. Maybe some heavy sighs. And then take your hands. Here's for your adrenal glands, Tracy. You're going to massage your kidneys and adrenals. Just kind of, I like to make a little basket. If you're seated, you can just do this seated, but take your hands right here to your lower back and just massage. And then go the other way. Some of you, like for me, I like forward bend. So I like to do this when I'm just overwhelmed. I just do that in a forward bend. But a lot of us, that's too tricky to go all the way down like that. So just massage and then shake it off and then swing your arms. So I'm just going to have us just swing our arms and take some pressure from the day. This is called the shh breath. So we're going to breathe in like this. And we're going to go shh. Like you're just like, oh, that was a big day. One more time. Take your arms up, and here comes the hands on top of your head, toning that vagus nerve, and take a few breaths. We can do this. This is how it is sometimes. I can hold two opposing things. Then shake it out. And then I would love for you to just write in the chat box, what are you noticing? And then we're going to take some more liquid. You're going to see me drinking a lot. Super important. Just go ahead and write in the box. What are you noticing? How does your body feel? Your mind? Yawning. I love that you're yawning. If you're yawning, that means that your body's starting to relax. So that's a compliment, teacher, when kids are yawning in your class. Rubbing the adrenals. Yeah, less pressure. Good. So if you have an Instapot, anybody have an Instapot? This is what we're doing. We're letting out the steam. Shh, shh. Humming and soothe shoulders and neck release. Great. And for some of us, you're like, that didn't feel that great. And actually, I'm feeling kind of more angry and sad. And why is that when we do body work? Can anybody unmute or say why, when we're doing these things, that some bodies feel really relaxed and others might feel agitated and sad?
Are we connecting to the trauma?
Yes. Okay. So it's a sign of healing, and we have to let kids know, like, we're going to be moving our bodies, and sometimes we move in a way and all of a sudden all the sadness comes out. So I work in the hospital in the inpatient unit. We do child and adolescent all the way up to, they call it geriatric, but I would like to say elder mental health. And we work in juvenile services. And one day this one youth looked at me and he just was like, I feel terrible. And everybody's like, I feel great. I'm so relaxed. And he's like, I feel awful. He's like, I feel so sad. So he's on the unit for chemical dependency. He's Native American. His family there's just been a lot of collective trauma, right? And a lot for him personally. And I'm looking at him and I got to say in that moment, when we do body work, our body brings up grief. And it's not only our grief and sadness sometimes. It can be our ancestors' sadness. So it sounds like, just got in touch with some sadness that may be part yours and maybe part of what we call historical trauma. And all the kids are like looking around. And I said, yeah, because everything is in our bodies from our life and our parents, right? And their parents and their parents. And so, we talk about historical trauma, but this is like what it is. And I'm telling you too, when you move the shoulder, like a lot of people have frozen shoulders and stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, I injured my shoulder. And I'm curious about that because I think we're trying to protect a little bit too. And it's overuse, right? So that day, after we stated that it's not always comfortable, especially with mindfulness, if you've been in trauma and someone asks you to be quiet, that feels so unsafe for me. Or close my eyes. Oh my gosh. It doesn't mean we don't go there, but we scaffold into this. So this youth and another youth just said, you know what? For healing, for me, we sing, and I had a drum and we drum. Can I sing and drum today? And that's what we did for our rest. And all the kids on the unit, you could not hear a pin drop. And of course, I was just like, this is healing. This is healing. First of all, I was able to name it. So we say when you name it, you can tame it, right? So naming, yeah, there's a lot of sadness going on. And that's a part of healing when the trauma comes up. So if I have sadness in my heart and I do a heart opener like this, sometimes I just feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. Like I do back bends and I'm like, I feel great. But sometimes it's like, and sadness comes down. Does that make sense? So we want to be really mindful when we're working with youth, especially, and adults with these mind-body practices. So I'm going to have you write down another quote. That trauma responses are protective, not defective. And I'm going to add some of Resmaa Menakem's. Have you read, if you need a summer book, My Grandmother's Hands? He's a clinical social worker, actually here from the Twin Cities. He wrote the book, My Grandmother's Hands, Healing Racialized Trauma. He does a lot of mind-body practices. Where was I going with that? Oh, and he added, which I think is really important, that trauma responses are reflexive. Okay, so they're protective and reflexive, not defective. And so I've been starting to really talk about what we call embodied SEL and embodied equity. If we don't understand our reflexive responses, that can be problematic. All right. Because our nervous systems have all been trained and enculturated in our society to react and respond in certain ways. And we're not always not safe. We're actually wrong sometimes. Our brain is not always right. Does that make sense? So if trauma responses are protective and reflexive, not defective, but if we're not aware of them, can cause some issues, then we can start to intervene and start to see what our youth are telling you. So the fact that a child, can someone actually, I shouldn't tell you, can you tell me, let's just take, let me hear what are some difficulties with kids. Where are we struggling? Like, what are kids doing that we're struggling with? Can people either write in the box or unmute? What are some of the, we call them behaviors, but I'm going to say protective responses. Can anybody give me one? Running away. Great. Let's just talk about running away. So I worked with a little kindergartner who had a lot going on. There was, not only did he came to the US. He started to not speak the same language as his mom. So there was some language gaps starting to happen. He was put in the child protective system, pushing boundaries. Great. And so when he came to school, it was like this terrifying place, right? And we had to go down and get him and bring him to my office. And he was a runner. All right. And so we realized the running was not the problem with Johnny. The problem was I didn't know where he was, and my job was to keep him safe, and his job was to help me keep him safe, right? So Johnny, the problem isn't, the running's not the problem, but when your body gets scared, it wants to run. So from my lens of a mind-body practitioner, running is amazing. If I get scared, I run out of the room. So what did we do with Johnny? We ran. We did dead bug running. Do you know dead bug running? Yep. So you're on the floor, run, 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 and then you collapse. It's so fun with the younger kids. We built a hiding place in the classroom that he could run, and he helped design because he needed to just hide too. He needed, a lot of kids drop on the floor and they hide. And as a social worker, I used to literally be like, come down to so-and-so room. I'm like, you've got to get out. You got to get out from the end of their desk. Now I'm like, that's great. They went under the desk. They got themselves really protective so they could feel safe. They got out visual stimulation. They got to the floor. Have you gotten to the floor yet this year? Have you splatted on the floor yet? I want you all to do that. Get into a tantrum and splat on the floor. We'll do it at the end. Getting to the floor, let yourself be grounded. If you don't feel grounded, just get to the floor. So we're going to take these responses, and this is how we developed our card deck and our posters. Watching what bodies do. When we get upset, who's a fighter? Blood is taken from the frontal cortex. More blood is going literally to your hands. So squeeze your hands right now. And just release your hands. Squeeze. Now tighten up your whole body. Go. And just release your whole body. Let's try that again. Breathe in. Squeeze. And breathe out. So we want to notice the difference between tension and rest. If we get scared, more blood flow goes to our legs. So what we're going to try to do now is just show you how we kind of think about designing breathe, move, rest practices. But I'm going to stop to see if there's any questions so far, questions or comments. I'm seeing refusing to get on the bus and laying on the ground. So when I see that, I want to talk about that a little bit because I'm curious if we can get to the ground before we have to go out to the bus. So could we find some activities where we are on the ground and just say when our bodies don't feel safe, we want to get to the ground and it looks like maybe going on the bus. There's 1,000 reasson why we might not want to go on the bus. It might be loud. It might be bumpy. I don't want to leave school because it feels a little chaotic at home or whatever, right? So we don't know, but what we do know is what the body is showing us. Pushing boundaries. So pushing boundaries, I want to get, and I'm not saying this solves everything, but I want to get at the push with the body. So let's do that. I know I might seem all over the place. I hope I'm not, but I'd like to do things while we're talking. So pushing boundaries for me is there's a lot going on about maybe not feeling in control, maybe not feeling connected. So I want to look at that. But from the mindfulness and body piece, I want to try to get at that. So let's do pushing boundaries. So let's pull up on our chair for a second. Let's just get input into our body. Tighten it, tighten up, tighten up, tighten up, and then release. Again, do that again. And then shake it out. Come to your chair, and we're going to try to lift ourselves off our chair. Now, if you're on a couch or a soft chair, it's not as easy. So we're going to lift ourselves up, and then we're going to come down. Now try to lift your legs off. Now kids can do this. It's harder for adults. Lift your legs up, hold, 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 and then release. Shake it out. Now those are big moves. Now we got to put our hands on our head because we just went for big moves. Now we got to put everything back together. Take a breath. I might push by doing tricep dips. After recess, we were just in a class that's just wild after recess. So we're just going to go down, 8, 7, 6. We'll do this in all different languages. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now that's kind of big emotion, big energy. Shake it out and watch this. Now I'm going to close it all down. Take a few breaths. And then slowly release. So if trauma responses are protective and reflexive, not defective, until they become defective if we don't know what we're doing, right? We're going to try to watch bodies. And who's the first body you're going to watch is yours. That's that self-study, right? That's that looking at what's going on with my body. So what we just did right now is we did some movement to unwind the nervous system to do what's called getting to the frontal cortex. So this is Bruce Perry and Daniel Siegel's work when we talk about the science. Daniel Siegel talks about, I think a lot of us have been talking about the handy model of the brain, so I'm not going to go through that as much as just to say that when you're in this lower part of the brain, that's the part that keeps you safe, right? And I feel like a lot of us are like this right now. We have just popped our lid. And that's where we get really reactive. So if we want the lid to be on, and the first lid that needs to be on is ours, which is really hard in a school day. I was just in a school yesterday. They're doing construction. I'm like, oh my, I mean, it's like, brrr, things are falling from the ceiling. It's just like, oh my gosh, we are already totally in chaos. Like we're just getting back to online, to live learning. So put your hand at the back of your brain. And this is Bruce Perry's work. And this is what I talk to kids about really young, even in first grade. Regulate, big word, regulate. Put your hand on the middle of the brain, relate, reason. Let's try it again. Regulate, relate, reason. So this is how your brain takes in the world. And this is how teaching and counseling often is. So your upstairs brain is going to respond to talking, problem solving. It's executive functioning, right? It's fully developed when we're 25. The kids are like, what? I'm like, yeah, but I have a forehead. And I'm like, yep. But all the connections in your brain are fully there when you're 25. The back of the brain is going to keep you safe at all costs. So we want to get this regulated. You don't get upstairs to this part of the brain unless you feel safe. And if I don't feel safe, I'm not able to move into actually some of my social emotional learning that's more cognitive. Does that make sense? So doing the body work with all your SEL is going to be amazing. I don't like to take anything away. So we collaborate with zones of regulation, conscious discipline, responsive classroom, CARES program, because ours just layers right in. So we're going to regulate, get some body work and breath work. Then we're going to be able to do our social emotional learning and connect. And then we get to do our cognitive, or we got to do our testing, right? Especially 3rd and 5th graders right now. They're like, why do we have to do this? And the teacher's like, I'm so stressed. I'm like, try 2 things. I want you to work on, I'd invite you to work on breathing because they do show 5 all the time. Do you know the breath, 5-finger breath? Let's try that. Take a breath. And for busybodies, you want to trace here. So we're having these breathe, these especially third and fifth graders starting. I just said start today. We just talked about this yesterday. Breath work every day. That's the fastest way to change how you feel. When I breathe slowly, I move to this part of the brain. If we want the testing and the cognition to be there, the other half of the equation is the body has to be regulated, and I need vocabulary. I can do this. I've got this. And that's what our work does. So we want to, with mindfulness, and we know many of you are here, to just be using our whole brain. So these are the interventions for downstairs behavior. So why, when I started working these techniques, is because this speaks to the lower part of the brain, diaphragmatic breathing, yoga-based movement. So that's regulatory movement that's really works on getting a body to a relaxed, alert state. Tapping, which we're going to do in a moment. Guided imagery, heavy work, music, art. When we start to do these, we literally are communicating to the brain and doing mindfulness. We're noticing where we're at in the moment. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's happening physically in my body? And then I'm going to choose some practices, thumbs up, sideways, and down, to build my toolkit so I can show up fully, mind, body, and heart. So all I said yesterday with these kindergartners, I said, today we're going to learn how to take care of our mind, our what? Our mind, our body, and our heart. And we're going to do some breathing and movement and rest, and then you can decide what's helpful. And that's how easy it is. And then I look at the teacher and I say, which one is your favorite activity? And you are going to teach that every day, because that's for you. Because if your shoulders are back and your jaw is relaxed and your eyes are soft, that child's nervous system is going to read you as safe. I'm going to say that again. If your shoulders are back, anybody by like second period, you're like, oh my God. So when we say self-care, because self-care is not landing well, and I get it. One more person tells me to take care of myself, seriously. But what if my shoulders are back and I stretch my body throughout the day, that is how a child reads me as safe. That's huge. I will do that. I will care so deeply for my body because I can use my body as the intervention. So that's like there's so many great programs out there. What we do at Move Mindfully is we use these breathe, move, rest practices to literally address stress, distress, and trauma in the body by doing physical regulation practices, emotional regulation, noticing how to work with different emotions. Like anger is such an important emotion. It's a big emotion, but we can transform anger into assertive action. So the punching and pushing is not the problem. The problem is you're hurting others and yourself. But there's great ways to transform fear into courage. You know, you can't have courage without fear. I mean, courage is we're going to transform fear into courage. And the cognitive regulation is really working on that mindset, that mental mindset of how we are speaking of things and how we're holding space for both. And I love, Tracy, that you just named both. So I think a lot of times right now, people are like almost moving to like, everything's great, gratitude. I love gratitude. Gratitude practices literally change your brain, right? But we can hold space for these other things in our gratitude. And we've got to honor that with kids too. So we are going to do another exercise of tapping. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed with everything that's going on in the world, right? And I'm holding all this, I'm fatigued, I'm tired. Tapping literally helps the body discharge. Okay. And so we have a card on this now, but this is also what it will look like with adults. So when your heart is a beat, right? Everything in your body is a pulsation. Your heart beats. If you've ever been injured, it throbs, right? It goes like this. It's a pulsing. That's a communication. So this is like Morse code back to the body. It's like speaking in the language of the body. So find your collarbones, and right below is a soft spot. And you can massage this spot. It's kind of like the on button of the body. You can tap this spot, or you can go off the body. And we're just going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. Breathe in. Breathe out. So this is what it looked like the other day. It was a tough day, and I just started walking. Instead of just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Breathe in. Breathe out. Shake it out. So you can try that. If you're a mover, sitting, when we move, the neurons fire faster. The next one is a kind of an awkward point. Sometimes it feels awkward for people. So it's right by your rib cage. It could be anywhere around here. These are little spleen points. So you're going to tap, you're going to massage, or you can go off the skin. And let's just breathe in. Breathe out. Let's breathe in and breathe out the anxious breath. It's a HA. Let's breathe out fear. It's like blowing out the candle. And shake it out. Now the next point is right underneath your eyes. So it's right here. And you can just go, you can tap gently. Take off your glasses if you want. It's a grounding point. Okay. And I'm going to come close so you can see this. And I'm going to do the S breath. This is for sadness and grief. I'm just going to breathe in like this. Again, breathe in. Go around your eyes now. Just go around the orbital bone. Maybe you're going to go around your jaw. And then you just stop and shake it off and take a moment to notice. So thumbs up if you like tapping. This will be part of your movement section. Sideways, it was okay. Oh, we got some kids in there. You can try this out. Or thumbs down. That wasn't my thing. If it's thumbs up, you're going to write down tapping around my eyes. This is a grounding point. If you went to an acupuncturist, this is a stomach point. It's the top of a stomach point. So it helps with the digestion. It helps with separating you from others. And it just releases that orbital bone, that whole eye socket. Okay, this one, especially with our immune system being, this helps your lymphatic system, educating your immune system. Okay, and you're going to write. Now you write tapping, but now I'm going to have you write, when would you do it? I'm going to tap when I wake up. I'm going to tap after staff meetings. All right. You also, has anybody ever gone like, oh, I just want to pull my hair out. I just feel, so this tapping on your head or pulling, just tap your head. Tap your head. There are so many little points on the head that are helpful. Tap around. And then let's just scrape like this. I'm just going to show you some extra things. Just pull at the hairline. Literally pull the fascia on the scalp. Go all the way back. Go all the way back until you find that occipital ridge and just hold that little dent in the back of your head gently. Take your hands to your shoulders. Hold your shoulders. And then hands come to your heart. And let's work on a little grief breath. I'll show you what I've been doing lately. I cross my hands, so I'm doing middling crossing, and I just do my S breath. Let's try that again. Then shake that out. All right, so if you like one of those, write that in that movement section. So tapping can be really, really helpful. So now I'm just going to go through a little bit, and I think a lot of people, and I'm just going to take myself off the screen. Do a lot of people do breathing? Are you doing breathing kind of exercises? Yeah. So I'm just going to show a few, and many of you might know this. The one thing I just want to say is a lot of us are probably teaching a lot of calming breaths, all right? Like that big belly breath, diaphragmatic breathing, or like blowing out the candle. These are all really good breaths, but if you have students that are high energy, they can't get to that. Like that feels unsafe. Like if I'm running anxious and someone has me paying attention to my breath, I've had so many kids say, if I start to pay attention to my breath, I just feel like I want to crawl out of my skin. It makes me feel more anxious. And everybody keeps saying, just take a few breaths. So breathing is really important, but there's different types of breath, as you've seen me do, you know? So let's look at those. We have a bunch of different ones in our card deck. So we've got hand tracing, which we just did, right? But we're going to do the shh again and the lion's breath, knowing that you actually are, and I can show you what it looks like. We have an early childhood card deck too. There's that lion's breath. Knowing that that kind of releasing breath is super helpful. So let's do 5-finger breathing, but let's do it as a dysregulated kid. So if I say we're going to breathe, we're going to do our 5-finger breath. How is a child that's pretty dysregulated going to breathe? Yeah, that's right. They're going to go really fast. So is it Syra?
Yes, Syra. Yep.
Syra. Okay, so let's breathe really fast. Can you show us how you breathe fast? I love that you know how to do that. Ready? Everybody breathe fast. Here we go. Now, when would you need that breath? When do you need that fast breath? When do you fast breathe?
When you're running or when you're active?
Yeah, so running, so like recess, gym, sports. So that's an important breath. If we're scared, we need our fast breath. Our fast breath is what keeps us safe, right? So do you see how we're just saying we're just talking, this is how it is. Like, that's great. But Syra, you can't have just fast breath. That's like riding a bike with no brakes. And I love what kids say. They're like, that would be awesome. I'm like, yeah, until you crash. So here's the language I've been using with mindfulness and some of this movement is I want you to learn how to stay in your power. And your breath is like your superpower. So it's so good that you know how to breathe fast, and we want to learn how to breathe slow. So we just did fast. So now we're going to do slow, and we're going to do slow with your hand on the desk or your hand on your leg. And let's just get ourselves really grounded. And I'm going to have you and just do this to see what it feels like in your body. So we'll just go on our own breath. That will save your marriage. That will save your friendship. And I'm not kidding. We've got to stop. And if you don't stop, it's always a yes. You're going to blow it. And then you get to do repair. And so many of our kids don't get to see what repair looks like, right? So you can just say, my lid just popped. I was breathing really fast and I just raised my voice at you, and that was just not okay. Or I spoke about you in front of other students. We got to be really careful about this. As a social worker, I would come into classrooms and it's so important, teachers. I know you have to give us information, right? But we really got to watch what we're saying, because we're talking about kids in front of them and in front of everybody else. And it's totally humiliating. And I know you don't mean it, and I don't mean it as a social worker. So that's why we just pause and we take a breath. We might kind of do a little bit like this, like, that was a lot. I think you just got scared. And and like a kid tossed the chair. I mean, that's really scary for a teacher, right? Where you have to literally move kids out of the classroom because someone really got scared and threw a chair. And this is where you can repair too. You may have blown it. The kids may have blown it. You come back and say, so-and-so was in the lower part of the brain. When they got scared, they ran out of the room. Sandra, what do you do when you get scared? Syra, what do you do? Oh, you shut down. Oh, you run. Oh, you push. That's what we do when we get scared. Let's do a breath right now and send a heart breath to our friend that just had really a tough time right now. Are you ready? Let's do it. I just did this yesterday in a class. We're going to breathe in, and you're going to make a heart for our friend that's having a hard time. Breathe in. And for myself as a teacher, I just got totally scared. I worried about other kids getting hurt. One more time. Breathe in. And then just hold right here at your throat and not pushing, and hold your head. And just connect your heart and mind. That was scary. And then that little kid gets to come back, because maybe yesterday, Syra, you got upset and you blew it. I'm showing you that we're not going to abandon you. We're going to use our mindfulness to let you know you belong in our class. You belong in our class, and your nervous system just got scared and it was trying to protect you. Now, it's not saying we're not holding kids accountable. We're saying when you get really mad, we have to go pick up the room now, and we just broke this. Now we're going to have to work with the engineer for, to help fix. I mean, we're going to do something, but we're not going to shame. Because when you learn about the brain, you move out of shame. We cannot do this. We can't do this with ourselves, because shame, it just deteriorates our system, but we also have to watch how we're doing this with kids. And I really feel like the mindfulness pieces are really helpful. So let's do this releasing breath again. And let's do it with something that's been really intense for you. All right, so rub your hands, shake it out. Breathe in like this and breathe out. Go. Breathe in. One more time. Breathe in. Now, if okay, do the, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Cup your frontal cortex and just say it. Just breathe out. And then slowly come back. All right. I also love shaking. So I might put on a song instead of doing like releasing breath. I might have kids shake. Has anybody done that where you just shake for like 3 minutes and then you sway? Yeah. So releasing breath, we have lots of different cards in our card deck that has all these different calming and releasing breaths, but I wanted to show you a few of those. Then we've got the movement. And the movement, as you can see from our cards, they're basic movements. So this is my daughter. And you can see, look at her shoulders are open, her palms are out like this. It's not like going to be like, I'm so mad at you. So something so simple like this, like standing in this for lying. And why do we want to stand like this? It lets the brain know all is okay. It also allows you, look at you're in your power when you stand like that. I can do this. Then we've got upward mountain, and we're going to do midline crossing. So are people using movement right now in their work? Some of the movement? Yeah, great. So let's just do this for yourself today. Okay. You're going to just think of something. And again, I'm going to have everybody, like I just said to you, let's all stand up, but not everybody's going to stand up. So those of you that are seated down, I'm going to offer that to you too. This isn't something where everybody has to do it. How we work with our body needs to be a choice. So I'm going to have you think of something that's at your doorstep right now. You're like, I just am not ready for this. And there's probably a lot of those. So I'm going to just show this vocabulary one more time. I am ready. I can do this. I am focused. Okay. So right here, there's a saying on one of our cards. If it's at your gate, you can handle it. You're like, I have a lot at my gate. So just take a moment, ground down, and find your own experience with this. And then bring your arms up and try on this vocabulary. I can do this. And then bring your hands down. Here. Arms come up. And now try that. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. Shake it out. Sometimes I have the kids start with, I can do this. You can do this. We can do this. All right. Let's swing our arms. And this is, if I had to say, if you haven't been doing a lot of this move, this is the one move I would do, because you can walk with this move. You can, it crosses midline. It brings input into the system. So when we have trauma, we get out of our body. So this is getting proprioceptive input. You can go here, here. You don't get a prize for bringing your arms in like that. Now bend your knees. If you're sitting, you just cross your legs like this, or you can go take your arms lower, whatever's comfortable for your body. If you want to try to balance, I'm going to have you lift that leg that you crossed over. And take a few breaths. Find your eyes on one thing. Maybe saying to yourself, I am focused. Now let's move into your digestive system. So round over and feel that digestive system compress like you did that twist. And then you're going to go really wide like this. And soft smile on the face, and then shake it out. Shake out your arms, shake out your legs. Now let's do the legs first. Now cross your legs so you're making an X, bend down, or you're doing it seated, and take the other arm underneath. Here or here. And take some breaths. Maybe challenge yourself if you want to do that by lifting the foot off. Release your jaw, focused. Maybe try your vocabulary, your intention. Present. Round down now, stretch your shoulders. Release your neck. And then really create a lot of space. And then shake it out. Now let's just pretend we're walking down the hallway, but actually instead of doing this, you're going to do the crossover or the brain gym and go underneath. And I'm going to have you just walk for a second in your space. Maybe something was intense today. You're just going to kind of walk and breathe. Maybe you're going to add vocabulary. I'm present and at ease. And then release, go the other way. And this time just cross over. You can walk or you can just stand still and just breathe. We've got this. And then shake it out. And as long as we're back up at the chair, let's give ourselves a big stretch here, or into a forward fold, or stretching at your chair, and just really release the body. And then slowly come back. So I say you don't have to do a lot of movement. We kind of want to be, one movement can be very beneficial. We can tap like with little kids. Sandra, we do that little butterfly tap sometimes, but we've got midline crossing. For older kids, I might do the grief breath right here. For older kids, I might have them do the sneaky, no one needs to know, cross your ankles and take your hands on your lap like this. No one needs to know, but I'm doing crossing over. That unscrambles my energy. So I'm sitting in class, no one needs to know. I'm doing a twist, I'm cracking my back, no one needs to know, but I'm orienting myself in the space. I'm just letting my body, let's try this again. Notice what it's behind me. Slowly come back to center. I go to the other side. And then release. We also have posters that kind of, like I said, they match the zones, use when tired. We have the littles. She's doing a little rock, adrenals. We did that. We massaged our lower back. So I'm going to stop for a moment. We're going to get into rest, but I want to see if there's any questions because I kind of want to end when we're not talking because I want to give you a little rest. So Tracy, I wonder, is there stuff you want to say?
Well, I just want, in case there's some new members who want help with the member site, so just a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes.
You want to say that now, or do you want to say at the very end?
Not everybody needs to stay on for what I have
Okay.
to say if you're already, comfortable with it. I guess maybe first, if you didn't see, I put an attendance form in the chat a little bit ago. So CASA members can earn up to 24 PD hours or CEUs per year. And we have a view trackable system on our membership platform. So we were recording this. So if you know someone you think would be interested in seeing this, if they didn't miss it, if they missed it live, you can watch it in the Learning Center of our member site and earn up to 24 a year. I don't know if Terry and the SEL Hub might be able to give out specific PDs for just this session. So click and do attendance that way as well, and I'll get her the response spreadsheet, so she knows who attended. She'll know who's in the ROE area of her SEL hub. Yeah, so that's mainly what I wanted to share. And I put move-mindfully, is it .com?
Yep.
On the website, because I know you also have these in Spanish too, which is
We have this in Spanish, we have it in French, we have some stuff in Somali. I'll show you real quick what we've been doing. So we do workshops and residencies. These are the kind of the programs that we teach using these different card decks that are in Spanish and English and French. That's not the one I wanted either. This is the one I wanted. You go to, so we have a pretty robust free resources. So you can get samples of all that. We have sample of the breathing and the movement and rest activities. Again, we're pre-K all the way up to adults. So go ahead and subscribe there. We've got lots of great things. I am super passionate about not adding another thing to educators' plates right now. So I hope that you can see how this really embeds in what we call embodied SEL. So did we talk about self-management today? Right? Did we talk about self-awareness, noticing, relationship building? So we have taken kind of the Castle Foundation pieces and really embedded how you can add this into your programs already and really seat in so people can actually practice these skills that we're doing. So I am going to lead us in, unless there's any questions, let me pause and we'll take a drink. Does anybody have any questions or comments? We good? Okay. So rest is absolutely critical, as we know. And I just worked with educators yesterday about, how they're just plowing through the day, which they need to right now. It's like, you just kind of got to get stuff done, but there is a cost. And so we talked about doing some movement, different types of movement, like legs up the wall, just kind of training the body maybe for 2 minutes to rest. But there's different types of rest. So I love this quote, taking a rest is a deep act of courage. It's caring for myself is not self-indulgent, it's self-preservation. And there's different types of rest. So physical rest is more than sleep. You can get rest right here, like what we're doing, slow breathing, maybe doing releasing breath and doing that slow diaphragmatic breathing. That is a physical release. This is physical rest. Mental rest is giving the mind a break. Mindfulness practices can be super helpful in all the different ways that we do that. Emotional rest, talking to a friend, therapy. Spiritual rest, reconnecting to something that inspires and invigorates you. Social rest. Sensory rest. Does anybody do that where you just unplug the whole weekend? I've done that every now and then. It's hard. And this is where, if people that know me, I didn't know about this creative rest because I'm a creator. I go on walks and the pauses that you hear are inspired by my walking, but I really realized that I need to do things that are not generating something. So I'm going to have you write down one of these. You can take a screenshot of this right now. Where can you try to get, what area are you lacking in rest? And then we're going to go to our rest. So right now we're going to take a moment to splat. Okay, so hopefully you're in a space where you can splat. So this is a splat. It's a 2-year-old tantrum, but we're going to do it a little more organized. So one splat is just like this. I surrender. Another splat, what I told teachers is if you can get your legs up after standing all day like this is super helpful. Or, so I'm going to have you start moving. So if you can stay in your chairs, but why not take advantage of this? And you can see here now my shoulders are completely released. My neck is supported. If I get tired, I'll bring my legs here, but this lowers heart rate and blood pressure. But you always want to make sure when you're ready to come down that you pause at your side. Okay, and then you go against a hard surface. And this, I talked to teachers yesterday, just leaning against the wall can let yourself be grounded. So go ahead and find a place that's right for you.
And just to be aware of the time. So
Yep. And we're going to do this. I'm going to show you how I do this in 1 minute.
Okay.
Because it's 4:56 or whatever time it is. So go ahead and find a comfortable position. And I'm just going to turn on just a tiny bit of music. This is At Last by Martin Landau. And just allow yourself right now to let go of everything we talked about today. There's no hurry for this work. Trust what you'll take as meaningful. And just let the floor or the chair support you. Just give yourself a break. Allow your eyes to soften, your cheeks and jaw. Bring attention to your sweet shoulders and allow your shoulders to release your arms and hands. Allow your heart to soften, your upper back release. And just allow your lower back, belly, your legs, and your toes. Just give your whole body just a sweet little break. And bring your hands, if you'd like, to your heart. And just take a nice breath in. And slowly breathe out. Come back to your word, how you want to show up today. If your legs are on the wall, you're going to slowly lower your legs down. And you're going to roll to the side. If you're in the chair, you're just going to kind of do movements. Maybe your body, your neck, your upper body. And if you're on the floor, slowly sit up. And just stay where you are for 1 minute. Take a breath there. Slow breath out. And I'm going to have you just slowly come up to the camera. And if we can all turn our cameras, if you're available, just turn your camera on. And look at your new friends and colleagues that are in this work together. And just let them know that you see them. That they matter. They belong. We belong. We belong together. So when we're in this place of mindfulness, when I am present, I'm able to see you. And that's where the magic happens. So I want to thank you all so much. Stay in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. And I would love to hear what you're doing, because I just know there's so much great wisdom right here in the room. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks
You're
everybody
welcome.
for coming. And